Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Of an obscure nature. A deep dark secret. Of darkness, densely dark. A face in deep shadow. To an advanced time. Deep into the night. Difficult to penetrate. Incomprehensible to one of ordinary understanding or knowledge. A deep metaphysical theory. Strong. Intense. Deep purple. A long steep-sided depression in the ocean floor. Having or denoting a low vocal or instrumental range. A deep voice. To a great depth, far down or in. Dived deeply. Exhibiting great cunning, usually with secrecy. Deep political machinations. Extending relatively far inward. A deep border. Having great spatial extension or penetration downward or inward from an outer surface or backward or laterally or outward from a center, sometimes used in combination. A deep well. Intense or extreme. In deep trouble. Large in quantity or size. Deep cuts in the budget. Literary term for an ocean. Denizens of the deep. Marked by depth of thinking. Deep thoughts. Relatively deep or strong, affecting one deeply. A deep breath. Relatively thick from top to bottom. Deep carpets. The central and most intense or profound part. In the deep of night. Very distant in time or space. Deep in the past. With head or back bent low. A deep bow. To a great distance. Penetrated deep into enemy territory. Of an obscure nature. The new insurance policy is written without cryptic or mysterious terms. Having a secret or hidden meaning. Cryptic writings. Having a puzzling terseness. A cryptic note. Of an obscure nature. Having a secret or hidden meaning. Of an obscure nature. The inscrutable workings of providence. Of an obscure nature. The new insurance policy is written without cryptic or mysterious terms. Having an import not apparent to the senses nor obvious to the intelligence, beyond ordinary understanding. Mysterious symbols. Of an obscure nature. Rituals totally mystifying to visitors from other lands. Hard to pass through because of dense growth. Thick woods. Spoken as if with a thick tongue. The thick speech of a drunkard. Having a short and solid form or stature. A thick-set young man. Used informally, stupid. In quick succession. Misfortunes come fast and thick. Of darkness, densely dark. Thick night. Used informally, associated on close terms. The two were thick as thieves for months. With a thick consistency. The blood was flowing thick. The location of something surrounded by other things. Abounding, having a lot of. The top was thick with dust, having component parts closely crowded together. Thick crowds. Not thin. Of a specific thickness or of relatively great extent from one surface to the opposite, usually in the smallest of the three solid dimensions. An inch thick. Relatively dense in consistency. Thick cream. In the recent past. Lately the rules have been enforced. At or toward an end or late period or stage of development. The late phase of feudalism. To an advanced time. Talked late into the evening. Later than usual or than expected. The train arrived late. After the expected or usual time, delayed. A belated birthday card. Used especially of persons of the immediate past. Our late president is still very active. Of the immediate past or just previous to the present time. A late development. Being or occurring at an advanced period of time or after a usual or expected time. Late evening. Having died recently. Her late husband. Of a later stage in the development of a language or literature, used especially of dead languages. Difficult to penetrate. Incomprehensible to one of ordinary understanding or knowledge. The professor's lectures were so abstruse that students tended to avoid them. Difficult to penetrate. Incomprehensible to one of ordinary understanding or knowledge. Some recondite problem in historiography. Marked by richness and fullness of flavor. A rich ruby port. Strong. Intense. A rich red. Affording an abundant supply. A rich supply. Marked by great fruitfulness. Rich soil. People who have possessions and wealth, considered as a group. Only the very rich benefit from this legislation. Containing plenty of fat, or eggs, or sugar. Rich desserts. High in mineral content, having a high proportion of fuel to air. A rich vein of copper. Of great worth or quality. A rich collection of antiques. Pleasantly full and mellow. A rich tenor voice. Possessing material wealth. Her father is extremely rich. Suggestive of or characterized by great expense. A rich display. Very productive. Rich seams of coal. Having an abundant supply of desirable qualities or substances, especially natural resources. Blessed with a land rich in minerals. A long steep-sided depression in the ocean floor. Impinge or infringe upon. This matter entrenches on other domains. Cut a trench in, as for drainage. Trench the fields. A long steep-sided depression in the ocean floor. A ditch dug as a fortification having a parapet of the excavated earth. Any long ditch cut in the ground. Cut or carve deeply into. Letters trenched into the stone. Dig a trench or trenches. The National Guardsmen were sent out to trench. Fortify by surrounding with trenches. He trenched his military camp. Set, plant, or bury in a trench. Trench the fallen soldiers. The lowest adult male singing voice. Any of various North American freshwater fish with lean flesh, especially of the genus Micropterus. An adult male singer with the lowest voice. Having or denoting a low vocal or instrumental range. A bass voice is lower than a baritone voice. The lean flesh of a saltwater fish of the family Serenidae. The lowest part in polyphonic music. Non-technical name for any of numerous edible marine and freshwater spiny-finned fishes. The lowest part of the musical range. The member with the lowest range of a family of musical instruments. To a great depth psychologically or emotionally. They felt the loss deeply. To a great depth, far down or in. Dived deeply. Incapable of being explained or accounted for. Inexplicable errors. Difficult to understand. The most incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it is comprehensible. Incapable of being explained or accounted for. Extremely sharp or severe. Intense itching and burning. Of color, having the highest saturation. Intense blue. Possessing or displaying a distinctive feature to a heightened degree. Intense heat. Confined to and understandable by only an enlightened inner circle. A compilation of esoteric philosophical theories. Striking in variety and interest. A colorful period of history. Having much or varied color. Colorful autumn leaves. Having color or a certain color, sometimes used in combination. Striking in variety and interest. Having much or varied color. No longer sufficient. Supplies are low. The lowest forward gear ratio in the gearbox of a motor vehicle, used to start a car moving. Make a low noise, characteristic of bovines. Used of sounds and voices, low in pitch or frequency. An air mass of lower pressure, often brings precipitation. A low moved in overnight bringing sleet and snow. Subdued or brought low in condition or status. Brought low. Of the most contemptible kind. A low stunt to pull. Filled with melancholy and despondency. Low or inferior in station or quality. A lowly parish priest. Very low in volume. A low murmur. British political cartoonist, born in New Zealand, who created the character Colonel Blimp, 1891 to 1963. A low level or position or degree. The stock market fell to a new low. Less than normal in degree or intensity or amount. Low prices. Literal meanings. Being at or having a relatively small elevation or upward extension. Low ceilings. Unrefined in character. Low comedy. Used of sounds and voices, low in pitch or frequency. Set at a low angle or slant. A low-pitched roof. Not straightforward or candid, giving a false appearance of frankness. Marked by skill in achieving a desired end, especially with cunning or craft. The artful dodger. Not on target. The kick was wide. Used of eyes, fully open or extended. Stared with wide eyes. Far from the intended target. The arrow went wide of the mark. Having great, or a certain, extent from one side to the other. Wide roads. Having ample fabric. The current taste for wide trousers. To or over a great extent or range, far. Wandered wide through many lands. Broad in scope or content. Granted him wide powers. Very large in expanse or scope. The wide plains. Great in degree. Won by a wide margin. Showing or characterized by broad-mindedness. A broad political stance. Having great, or a certain, extent from one side to the other. A river 2 miles broad. Not detailed or specific. A broad rule. Lacking subtlety, obvious. Gave us a broad hint that it was time to leave. Being at a peak or culminating point. Broad daylight. Broad in scope or content. An invention with broad applications. Very large in expanse or scope. A broad lawn. Of speech, heavily and noticeably regional. A broad southern accent. Slang term for a woman. Abroad as a woman who can throw a mean punch. Situated at or extending to great depth. Too deep to have been sounded or plumbed. The dark unfathomed caves of ocean. Resembling an abyss in depth. So deep as to be unmeasurable. Very great, limitless. Abysmal misery. Resembling an abyss in depth. So deep as to be unmeasurable. The abyssal depths of the ocean. Relating to ocean depths from 2,000 to 5,000 meters. Extremely deep. A bottomless pit. Having no apparent limits or bounds. A bottomless supply of money. Unclothed especially below the waist or featuring such nudeness. Bottomless dancers. Having no bottom. Bottomless pajamas consisting simply of a long top opening down the front. Of or carried on in waters of great depth. A deep water port.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.